Happiness can be found every day if we understand two things and then live like they're actually true. Many of us walk around believing a lie. We believe the lie that if we get enough money, enough power, enough romance, enough status, enough freedom, then we'll be happy someday. But one of the wisest, richest, most powerful men to have ever lived was one of the most miserable people on the planet in his day. There's a book written about him, and in it, he's quoted as saying, "I hated life, and I hated all the things that I had worked for while I was here on earth." But it's in the pages of that same book that we find the secret to happiness and contentment. We find things that when I remember to put them into practice, dramatically increases my satisfaction and happiness and joy in life. And I say when I remember those things because, maybe I'm like you, or maybe you're like me, and that sometimes we're just dissatisfied. We've got all of this stuff around us, but we're dissatisfied with our life, which is weird, right? Because we live in a time in the world where we have more sources of entertainment, more access to food and the necessity of life. We're at a time where things are off the charts as far as things that should bring us happiness, but we seem to be documented as not being happy at all, which means that those things probably weren't the things to bring happiness in the first place. It's a sad irony that there are so many things that are supposed to bring us happy in the world today that we have access to, but we still just don't have that happiness. And in order to understand how to gain happiness, we need to know why happiness is so elusive in the first place. So I want to share an experience that I had often in my high school days and my college days that might be relatable for you. Like, let's imagine it's Friday night and the boys are getting together. We're getting all the friends together and we have a 3-day weekend. And so we can sleep in the next day. And so this Friday night, we are going to have so much fun. So you get together at Josh's house and you and your buddies, you're hanging out there. Me and my buddies were hanging out there and we're like, okay, so what are we going to do to have fun? And I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but if you get a group of people who all are really interested in having lots of fun, and then have to then discuss how they're going to have fun and make it the most fun experience, 2 hours oftentimes pass and you're still discussing the thing that you're supposed to do. The thing that you're supposed to do that's going to bring you the fun and happiness that you're all gathered to do. You sort of like get stuck in this place of trying to force the fun to happen, which makes it so that you can't actually have fun. It's kind of like sleep and insomnia, that the more you think about how much sleep you need to get, it actually starts the thoughts spinning, which make it so that you can't sleep. And then you're looking up at the clock every 15 minutes to be like, okay, if I sleep now, you start doing that sleep math. And you're like, if I sleep now, well, then maybe I can still get 6 hours of sleep. And then you lay your head back down, but you're thinking about how you need to sleep. And then you're like, okay, if I sleep now, then I'll get 5 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep. And then you end up not sleeping very well because you're thinking about how much you need to be sleeping. Same thing as wanting to have fun. You're wanting to have so much fun that you're unable to have fun because you're too worried about making sure that you have fun. Now, maybe I'm just like really neurotic, but I think there's at least a few of you who have had this type of experience as well. And I think happiness is the same. The more you directly pursue happiness, the more elusive happiness seems. It's like that fun night with the boys or not getting sleep with insomnia. The more you try to cling to happiness, the least likely you are to actually have that happiness, which is why that wisest man who had ever lived, the teacher in the book of Ecclesiastes, he gives us advice because he sought happiness. He literally built cities for himself to enjoy. He had all of the money. He had a harem of women that he could sleep with. He had access to power because he ruled an entire kingdom that was branching out and growing. He also had access to the greatest wisdom of the time. So he had the smarts, he had the money, he had the power, he had the freedom to do what he wanted, he had the ladies, he had all the stuff that allegedly are supposed to bring you happiness, but he was still miserable. He says the eye never has enough of seeing, the ear never enough of hearing. The belly eventually gets hungry again. There is no actual satisfaction. But there are 3 places where he gives a unique recipe for happiness, which was not all the other stuff that he pursued. He says, well, but this one thing is a gift from God. This is the good thing for humans to do. And he says, it is to Eat and drink, and find satisfaction in the labor that you do under the sun. The path to happiness is the way you eat and drink your food and finding satisfaction in your work here on earth. And underneath those two commands are two truths that if you internalize them, you can find happiness every single day. The first truth is that happiness is not out there somewhere. He uses food and drink as an example because if you are alive and breathing right now, it means that you have had food and drank water or some other substance recently, within the last couple of days or so, unless you're in a deep fast, but you get the point. Food and drink is a daily facet of life. Finding contentment and happiness is not about going somewhere else to have some other experience or doing something out of the ordinary or getting something that only a few have access to. Happiness is at your dinner table. Happiness is in your water bottle. Happiness is finding satisfaction and contentment in the stuff that you are already experiencing. See, we could replace food and drink with your daily experiences. When you go outside in the morning to take a breath of fresh air, when you get into your car and you put on a song to listen to, when you take that first sip of coffee in the morning, when you lay down in a bed that actually has a pillow and is pretty comfortable, when you sink down into those familiar sheets, happiness is waiting for you in all of those places right there under your nose. You don't need to go somewhere else to find happiness. Happiness is learning to savor and enjoy the good things that you already have. I was in an Airbnb with my wife and some friends. We were going on a vacation, probably to do that same thing, right? To find happiness out there somewhere on vacation. And of all places in this Airbnb, above the toilet, there was this quote that stuck with me. It was in this little framed thing, and it said, "To be happy, you don't need to get what you want. You need to want what you have." And that's the secret. That's the secret from Solomon, that, or at least the first secret, is to find happiness, enjoy, appreciate, savor the stuff you already have. You can gratitude journal. You can text people that mean something to you in your life and tell them that you're thankful for them. Find reasons to be thankful and grateful and savor the good things that you already have access to. Happiness is here, not somewhere else. And that second truth, to find satisfaction in your labor under the sun, actually goes all the way back to Genesis chapter 1 and 2. In the first two chapters of the Bible, when God creates humanity, he says, "I've put you on this earth to rule over and have dominion here." And then in chapter 2, he says, "Take care of the garden. Take care of this place, name the animals. You're here to do stuff." I think sometimes we get this image of the ideal life as inactivity, eternal vacation. Like we think about heaven as being a place where we just chill all the time. But built into who we are is work. God put us here to make stuff, to create, to organize, to make things more beautiful than they originally were. See, God made a world that could be shaped and molded by us. And so our calling as human beings is to work. We're here to work on things to make things better. And so we will find satisfaction when we put our hands to work. See, the irony is, I think we go to work so that later we can be happy after work. But you can be happy at work. You can be happy doing the things that you need to do. You can be happy washing the dishes and vacuuming the house. You can be happy teaching students in a classroom or running a machine in a machine shop. You can be happy running copies at the copy machine. You can be happy digging ditches, watching the sun rise. Happiness is there for you when you are working. Case in point, some of my happiest, most fond memories traveling abroad in other countries have been the times when I went to another country and traveled for a mission trip. Whether it was humanitarian work to help people in poverty elevate themselves out of poverty, doing community development work, or maybe doing a VBS, like serving a community of orphans so that they can have a week of fun. It's in those times of serving other people, even if I was sleeping in the dirt in a tent in Mexicali, or on an uncomfortable bed in Ethiopia, those times were times of deep satisfaction because I was doing something that I thought actually added value to this world. Even if we think about like some of the vacations we take, what I've realized as a parent, I realized when I go to Disneyland, there's been a couple times where I've gone to Disneyland just with some friends for me to have fun. But those times at Disneyland have not been as fun as taking my kids to Disneyland, serving them, allowing them to enjoy themselves, adding value to their lives. Honestly, one of the things that makes me like lose track of time and spend hours at something just enjoying stuff is when I'm creating something like even like these videos, or my wife and I, we make these videos for children. In the process of making those things, it's in those moments where I lose track of time because there's a satisfaction to working and creating and building something because God planted that in our DNA from the very beginning. And so the key to happiness is not going on vacation away from work. Even talking about travels, one of probably my worst vacations was a vacation where my wife and I were like, you know what, let's just go on a vacation and travel to another country, not for a mission trip, let's just go. And we found that there were cool things. We saw Machu Picchu and did some fun things in Peru, but we weren't as satisfied as the times when we were serving other people in other countries. And the place we find this statement in the book of Ecclesiastes, where he says, here's the good thing for people to do is enjoy their food and drink and to find satisfaction in their work. It's found in a specific context in chapter 3, where he's also talking about everything having a season and a time. And then afterwards he says, I've seen the burden that God has put on the human heart. And here's the burden. He explains it this way. He says that he makes everything beautiful in its time, that temporary things are beautiful, but then he has also planted eternity in the hearts of people. See, there's this tension that we as humans have where we both want these temporary experiences of joy and goodness to last forever, but they don't last forever. They're only beautiful in their time. And we want to make an impact that lasts forever. And sometimes in our workaholism and our pursuing, trying to make things happen that make an impact, that leave a mark, we then miss the beauty of the things in the moment. There's both eternity and temporary things that need to be embraced if we're going to find happiness, which is why he gives us this recipe. You work and you find joy in your labor because you do things that add value to other people's lives. And people, when you invest in them, when you impact people, you are impacting someone for eternity. And at the same time, every interaction is a temporary, fleeting interaction that is beautiful in its time. So enjoy that coffee because eventually you'll drink it and it'll be gone. Enjoy that laughter because eventually your friends are going to go home. This tension between enjoying every temporary moment, but then also investing in something that lasts forever. This is the recipe to happiness. If you do these two things, find satisfaction in your labor as you make an impact for eternity, and savor every good temporary experience in your life. That's the path to happiness. Jesus also teaches this principle in sort of his unique, enigmatic way. He says, anybody who wants to save their life is going to lose it. But whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. In pursuing your satisfaction and your happiness, you'll find that you're going to miss it. But it's when you lay that down and you serve other people and you look at what you already have, you find that you have access to that joy and happiness. You have access to the kingdom of God that Jesus is preaching. He says, what does it gain a person if they gain the whole world but lose and forfeit their own soul? A lot of times we take this as like an eternal salvation angle, which I think is applicable here. But I also think that this definitely applies to the temporary. If you get the Rolls Royce and the house on the hill and all of the things that you ever wanted, but you lose your own soul, you don't find contentment and satisfaction, well, what did you gain? You gained something that's going to be a pile of rust eventually. You gained some numbers in an electronic bank account of pieces of paper that represent something of value, money. You gained some things, but if your own soul is still discontented and you don't have satisfaction and you can't appreciate the things that you already have, what did you actually gain? So thank Jesus that he spoke these words through Solomon to give us his wisdom, but then reaffirmed them so that we can pursue things that matter, so that we can add value to this world and find contentment in the things that are right under our noses. I hope you have a happy day today. Enjoy your work and enjoy that food.